Today, I am going to give you the best top 5 tips for staging your home to sell. Don't make the same mistakes so many of my clients have made when preparing to list their home. If you stick around until the very end, I will tell you the number one reason someone is turned off by a house or attracted to it. You'll likely never guess, but when I tell you, it will make perfect sense. The reason staging is so important is that statistically, it has been proven to increase the value of an average of 6 to 20%. Incredible, right? So before we get started, I am going to give you a warning. I can't even tell you how many times I get to a pre-listing appointment and I find that the clients, before consulting with me, have made some major investments to their house, like new countertops, updating a kitchen or a bathroom. It's like they emotionally decide to do one last big project, the one that they've always wished that they would done before moving. I have this belief that homes and people match. I see it every day. It is like the sellers are giving one last gift to their home before they move. Don't get me wrong, a newly remodeled kitchen or bathroom is very attractive to a potential buyer, but it doesn't impact the seller's bottom line like they hope it will. So if you're considering making some remodels, talk to your professional advisor about the investments you're going to make in those upgrades before you actually go through with them. I have saved my clients thousands of dollars. They have not had to go through the headache of the remodel or invest the time and energy that it takes to supervise these projects. Be smart and at least have a conversation with your agent and get advised on what matters most. Okay, let's dive into the top 5 staging tips to sell your home for the best and highest price. I will list them in order of importance. Tip number 1, and I did say this is in order of importance, is to declutter. This means that you will want to create sight lines and minimize your belongings in each room. I am staging certified, and when I do this with my clients, I walk through the home and we evaluate what needs to be packed and what should stay. It is a negotiation and I don't always get my way. I will problem solve to match what is important to the client. When decluttering, this might result in the rental of a short-term storage unit. I might have to concede to let you pack some of the items in, store them in the garage. But remember that if the garage is stuffed full of boxes, the feeling that it gives the buyers, or the illusion, is that there just isn't enough room to live in the house. And there isn't even going to be room for them to park their car in the garage. So our minds play a lot of tricks on us when we are highly emotional. Decluttering will also mean that you will have to give away the unwanted items, and several trips might be made to dispose of junk. You know, that stuff we always hold on to a little bit longer than we should. The other important aspect of decluttering is that with every room, it always serves a function. So for example, many of my clients are working from home. In one of my recent pre-listing appointments, we had to solve the problem around the office being in the master bedroom. Unfortunately, it gave the master bedroom the feeling of being squishy and too small and made it feel cluttered. It was a big ask, but not the most comfortable for my seller as well. But we moved the office to a corner of the family room that made it less of a problem. Again, we still broke the rule that every room has a single function, but it was a better solution than our current circumstance. Some other common examples are moving exercise equipment from bedrooms, large number of toys from family rooms, or workspaces from dining rooms. A good reminder is that we are selling space. If, as the seller, you can start to see the home as a product you are offering on the market, you can not only increase your bottom line, but you can also emotionally prepare yourself to detach from your home. Typically, a good rule of thumb for the average seller is to eliminate at least 1/3 to half of the belongings that you have in a room. I like to remind my clients that there is a way that we live and then there is a way that we sell. We all know that the buyers will move in and immediately fill the rooms to capacity just as we have lived in the home. But the illusion of having open open and inviting spaces is what really sells it. Another big benefit of decluttering is that it shifts the energy, both in your physical and mental space. Buyers can feel the invitation to step in and make the house their own home. If the sellers are moving out before we offer the home for sale, I will offer them the option of hiring a professional staging company to come in and create that homey feel. It doesn't take much to turn a vacant home from cold and lonely into a warm and inviting home. So that's always an option. Tip number 2 is clean. I mean, better than you have ever cleaned before. This is the best investment of both your time and money when it comes to selling your home and making the most money. There is an emotional attraction that we all have with cleanliness. It creates a feeling of safety and comfort. It creates an attraction that will pull the buyers to connect with your house. It always amazes me how much pushback I get on this one. Most sellers would actually rather invest $30,000 doing a complete bath remodel instead of getting out their cleaning supplies and spending a few hours really getting out the grime and the gunk. Also, I'm amused at the fact that often sellers really just don't want to spend the money to pay someone to come and deep clean. It's crazy. Yes, you aren't willing to spend $100 to clean, but you'd rather spend $30,000 on a remodel. I still can't quite wrap my brain around this one, but I see it over and over again. I am constantly helping the seller see that a good deep clean really is the best solution and the most effective way to use your resources, and that it's not necessary to make the expensive changes. No one seems to truly believe me that the biggest return on investment is by far doing a deep clean. I mean it. I really, really mean it. If you really want to create the highest desirability of your home to buyers, do a deep clean. It's an emotional response. Think of the last time that you stepped into a nice, clean space. How did you feel? What about a sort of okay clean space? What about a dirty and dusty place? Imagine you're looking at a home and you go to open up the blinds, which should already be open, by the way, but they hardly ever are, and you get your hand dirty. Ooh, yuck. Then instantly you lose the connection that you've been feeling with the house. Not to say that once you get the blinds open, you might be convinced by the breathtaking view and find it worthy of the dirty blinds. Regardless, what I'm trying to talk about here is the emotional response, the subconscious response that we all have. Do you believe me now? I know that this is the toughest one to sell, but it is also the most important. So I'll say it again, clean and then clean some more. Okay, on to tip number 3, which is addressing minor repairs. I am referring to the items such as the missing electrical faceplates. It will cost you a few dollars at most, but the small things really add up when a buyer's evaluating their list of items to complete. For the same reason, you simply haven't made the repair, which I am assuming is because it is annoying, and who has the time to run to Home Depot and buy them, then come home and put them on? And oh, by the way, where did they go in the first place? Well, don't worry about that one, because after you make the repair, as you were packing, they'll turn up magically, guaranteed. Another example would be the electrical outlet that has been giving you grief. You have never quite figured out why, but you just avoid using it. Maybe it's a loose hose bib outside on the faucet in the backyard that's been needing fixing. Or it's a window that got broken last year when the kids were playing football and slammed the barbecuer into the window. You know what I'm talking about. The small nagging list that you have had that you've been waiting to give your attention. I know, it's not fair. You have lived with all these items for so long. Why should you fix them now? Because it means more money in your pocket. The less a buyer has to do when purchasing a home, the more likely they are to compete and to raise their offer to get the home if they are in a competitive market. In a tough market, when rates are high and the buyers are already feeling squeezed financially, what might cost you a few $100s to fix will cost you several $1,000s in negotiation. Sad, but true. This is how investors actually make their best deals. For instance, take an inheritance property. The family is already in mourning. They're mourning the loss of their family member, but they've also been tasked with the job of addressing the personal belongings and making decisions on who gets what and how to get rid of the remaining items. This is when the investor steps in and offers to save the day for a mere 25% discount of the home's value. The investor will then gladly take over and figure out all the small details. The truth is that in many situations, this ends up being an actual win-win for the family and the investor. Right now, I'm working with a family that is in the same boat. They have made a lot of progress. They have reviewed important documentation. They've removed the items that they want to keep. Now they are feeling totally and completely overwhelmed by emotion. They feel frozen and they don't really seem to care about the bottom line anymore. They might just be satisfied with an investor offer. That might just be the route that they decide to take. We are weighing our options currently and they haven't made a decision yet. But here's a reality. If they would hire someone to remove all the remaining items, find a good cleaning crew, and address the leak under the sink and in the bathroom, we would do some minimal stagings and they would end up having extra college funds or wedding money for their children. But I understand that whatever they choose will be the best decision for them. The point being is that our emotions take over and we end up letting them get the best of us. Often we're willing to walk away from even the larger sums of money to relieve our pain. Okay, now we've arrived at tip number 4, which is neutralizing. This does not mean to depersonalize 100%. Remember, the home needs to feel warm, cozy, and inviting. If you have a gallery of family photos, maybe you have 21 pictures in that gathering, I might suggest we bring it down to 3. I have a seller who heard that she needed to neutralize her house before selling. So she removed all of the decoration and she had the home freshly painted before meeting with me. When I got there, my first thought was, who died? Is this a divorce situation? What happened here? I had to convince her to put some tasteful pictures and some small decoration back out. It went from feeling sterile and making me ask all sorts of interesting questions to feeling warm and inviting. I have a few suggestions when it comes to collectibles as well. Let's say, for example, you have over 200 spoons that you have collected from all your travels over time. You would be wise to protect them and pack them away. I still remember this incredible sand collection. I saw it at a house years ago. I don't remember anything about the actual layout of the home. I have no idea what city the home was in. I do, however, remember that I was mesmerized by the small bottles of sand displayed on the shelves from all over the world where the sellers had traveled. There were so many different colors and the sand was just so inviting. The bottles were beautiful and I had to resist touching them and analyzing them to see where they were from. I don't even remember anything about the house. So you get the point. I was so distracted that I didn't even remember anything. As a side note, you will also want to pack up and protect any of your monetary or emotional valuable items. If you have valuable jewelry, you'll want to put it in the safe. If you have arms, they must go in the safe as well. I saw a home last year and the owner had uniforms in the closet and his gun was in plain sight. Can you even imagine what would have happened if someone brought a child with them to see the house and the child just happened to pick up the gun? Now, I'm sure that it probably had the safety on, but it's always a million times better to be safe than sorry. A big question everyone has in regards to neutralizing is paint. Do they have to paint the pink room? My answer is not necessarily. Most buyers can get past the pink room. It is a different story if the walls are dirty and there are large dings in the wall, or if the paint job was at a DIY and there's pink paint on the ceiling and the baseboards, then yes, you do want to neutralize and repaint. Will it help if you're willing to paint? Absolutely. If you can, you should, but it won't cost you the sale of your home if you don't. I will always suggest a fresh coat of paint if needed, but I would rather that your time, energy, and money is spent, yes, you got it, decluttering and cleaning. Clean and then clean some more. I told you that I would say that again and again. Okay, we have arrived at tip number 5, which is dynamizing. A perfect example of this is simply opening up all the blinds and turning on all the lights when the buyers come to view the home. Light creates the illusion of additional space. It adds a brightness that is very appealing to the buyers, especially if you have actually made the extra effort to deep clean the windows. Imagine the fixtures shining in the bathroom and the natural light glow of the sunlight coming through the windows. Such a feel-good experience will increase your odds of receiving an offer. Curb appeal is a very important aspect as well. It should be a non-negotiable if possible. Statistically, the buyer has an emotional connection with the home within the first 30 seconds of pulling up. This means how you maintain the front view of your home really does matter. You want to invite the buyers in and get excited to see more. On a basic level, this means keeping the grass mowed, the edges clean, and potentially adding a few flowers for color to the flower bed. It also means that if you have peeling paint, you will need to sand and repaint. This is important on a much larger scale, which has to do with financing. So if the buyer is using an FHA loan, the number one required repair that I see year after year is actually to scrape and peel and repaint, because you cannot have raw exposed wood. So I'm not going to go into details on the requirements in this video for financing, but if you're interested in comparing the loan types and understanding the differences, you will want to watch my videos about financing. If you want to go the extra mile, make sure that you clean off the front of the house, and you might just want to paint the front door and the shutters for some extra appeal. A fun example of dynamizing is the pantry. I know, a little extreme, but I think that you'll understand when I explain a little bit better. Think about when you go to the grocery store and you go down the aisles and everything is perfectly arranged. All of the cans are facing forward and you can see the labels. They're perfectly stacked and stocked. Subconsciously, this creates order and peace. We all could use a little bit more of that in our lives today. So when staging your home, you will want to replicate that same look in your pantry and closets. Not a deal breaker, but a great way to capture buyers. If you want to see some great ideas on staging, you might want to walk through some model homes of new construction or attend a parade of homes if they have those in your area. So I told you that if you stayed with me until the end, I would tell you the number one reason someone is attracted or repelled by a home. It's odor. I told you it would make sense. Yes, our senses play a big part on an emotional journey to purchase our new home. Can you guess what smell is the most appealing and will subconsciously attract the most buyers? Did you say fresh baked cookies? That was what I thought, but that's actually number 2. The number 1 smell is homemade breads. Maybe the best investment that you can make rather than replacing the countertops or even the floors is to get one of those fancy bread makers. Now, let me give you a warning. Pet odor can be a huge deal breaker. The hardest part for sellers is since they actually live in the home, they can't smell that pet odor. It is important, if you have pets, to have someone you trust, who's hopefully your trusted advisor and realtor, give you an honest evaluation of odor. I recently listed a home where the sellers had 2 big inside dogs. The moment I entered the home, I was overwhelmed by the dog smell. I know, it is a very sensitive subject to address, but it's also imperative. I could tell you that I noticed that my clients were slightly embarrassed, which was uncomfortable for all of us. But these are the type of conversations that need to be had if I am going to help my sellers get the highest and best offer and the most money for the sale of their home. So it was a little tricky because they were going to continue to live in the home until they sold. This meant that if they got new carpet, the dogs would potentially pass the odor onto the new carpet since they were inside pets. We decided that the best solution would be to clean the existing carpet and do a specific odor control treatment. The best solution would have been to change the carpet and have the dogs stay with family or friends until the selling process was completed. But obviously, that wasn't an option. Unfortunately, despite our best efforts, the number 1 feedback we received was that the buyers just couldn't get past the pet odor. In the end, the buyers had big dogs that they owned and must have been familiar with the same smell because it wasn't even an issue. So here's an important statistic to know in regards to pets. 1/3 of buyers love dogs, and they would even consider purchasing the home and having you include your favorite dog. 1/3 of the buyers are actually allergic to dogs, and therefore they won't even consider purchasing a home if it currently have dogs, or if they do consider it, they want a deep discount because they're thinking they're going to have to change all of the flooring, they're going to have to get it deep cleaned, they're going to have to clean the vents. And then the last third of clients are actually deadly afraid of dogs. It is true. You would not believe the adventures that I have had with my clients as we have discovered undisclosed dogs in the home. There was a time when there was a dog in the garage and the agent neglected to disclose this to us. I went to open the door and the dog started to lunge at me. Luckily, I was able to close the door quickly enough that the dog didn't eat us, but my client was screaming hysterically and melting down, and she even left marks in my arm. So I have had clients also refuse to look at homes when they discover that they have dogs. So the best and most advantageous way to prepare your home for presenting to buyers is to erase all evidence of pets and make arrangements for them to not be present until you move into your new home. I know that this is a big ask. That is why we often have to go with plan B or C when it comes to your pet who's a big member of your family. I promise, I am not heartless. You just need to remember that what makes me exceptional is my ability to be honest and have open communication. This way we can problem solve and come up with acceptable solutions that will benefit you as a seller. Believe me, I would much rather skip these conversations altogether, but that would not be in the best interest of my sellers. As today's bonus tip, I will give you a warning. One of the biggest mistakes I see my clients make is investing in solar. This is one of those instances where I ask you not to shoot the messenger. It can be a sensitive topic and it is controversial. My objective today is to educate you on the impact solar will have if you decide to sell your home. So stick around and you will see why solar can rob you of a significant amount of equity if you're not careful. So unfortunately, here in Utah, as of right now, solar is not an investment that the majority of homeowners make. So it ends up being a negative selling aspect unless you are willing to pay it off at closing. Sure, it's true that when you get solar, your electrical bill will go down. Currently, you typically still need to connect to the main power company in the area. You will receive a small bill each month from Rocky Mountain Power, as an example. Then your solar payment will be the same or less than what your electrical bill would have been. This is wonderful if you're never going to move and you end up paying off the solar in the typical 20-year contract time frame. Also, it is true at this time that you will receive a refund that can help you pay down that solar when you file your taxes. Here is what is not true. Solar does not increase the value of your home in the amount that you owe on the solar. Also, there are many buyers who do not want the solar if that means that they have to pay for it. This will actually limit your buyers if you require them to take over your solar payments. There is also the possibility that the potential buyer will not qualify for the solar payments. This can cause you to receive an overall lower offer and negatively impact your final bottom line when you're selling your home. Don't get me wrong, there are some great redeeming qualities of solar. I'm simply pointing out the logistics of how solar will affect the sell of your home and your bottom line based on my experience and research. Anytime you do something that will pigeonhole your buyer pool, you eliminate potential buyers and therefore end up with a lower priced offer. Here is my most recent example. You are going to feel my seller's pain. Just 8 months ago, they had decided not to move. The market was especially tough. They were concerned about the interest rates. They felt overwhelmed. And although they really needed a larger home, they decided, let's just stay put. This is when they decided to make the investment in solar. Then they had a friend who worked with me, sang my praises, and told them that if anyone could help them in their situation, it would be me. We met and we resolved their concerns and decided to move forward with a new home purchase contingent on the selling of their current home. So let's go back to the solar problem, which we didn't know was a problem at the time. When the seller decided to invest in solar, they mentioned that they felt that they would likely move within the next few years. The solar company representative said, no problem. The solar is fully transferable. You can just take it with you. That was true, but not a full disclosure of what the process would entail and what it would cost the seller. When we decided to list, I asked the seller to please follow up along with the other items that we discussed in preparing their home before we actually went live on the market and received an offer. So let me add a big plug here for listening to your professional. If you have a connection with someone that has a proven track record and they ask you to do something, there's typically a really good reason, and you should absolutely 100% listen. We stayed in touch. The seller worked hard to complete the task list that we had addressed. Multiple conversations that we had, I would emphasize again that I really needed him to help us understand how it would work to make that transfer before we listed the home so that we were sure we understood. He said he would, and then he got distracted with other things and he didn't. We listed his house and he still didn't know the details as to how it would work with the transferring of the solar. He was so anxious to get his home on the market, and he had worked so hard on the list of preparations, and they were complete minus the information we needed for the transferring of the solar. I will tell you, he had worked very hard to complete the list of required items so that we could list. I was very proud of him for being so efficient, and he did a wonderful job. It will help you to know that his efforts were rewarded in multiple offers that we received. But he told me with confidence that the solar guy said it was easy to transfer the solar and he just wasn't worried. So he wanted to move forward. Once again, I begged him to find out how it worked, and he promised that he would. With the multiple offers in hand, I asked him one last time if he wanted to wait or move forward. He said, move forward. He wasn't worried. As a side note, when you have multiple offers, you have leverage. I could have at that point negotiated that the buyer would need to take over the solar contract if they wanted us to choose them. It's not a guarantee that that would have worked and they would have agreed, but most likely they would have, since at that moment they were emotionally invested and they really wanted to win the offer. They also really wanted to have the opportunity to purchase the home. Instead, we excluded the solar from the purchase and told the buyers that we were taking it with us. I had multiple conversations with the buyer's agent about how that would affect the roof and the fact that, the major solar system brackets would stay and also the main box. All was well until the seller finally called to initiate the solar transfer. He found out that to transfer the solar, he would have to pay it off in full at closing. He would also have to pay a large amount to prepare the new home to be solar ready. We're talking around $25,000. At this point, I tried to backtrack, but I was unable to convince the buyer that he would be interested in taking over those solar payments. So the seller determined in the end that he would need to leave the solar behind. This meant that he had to pay off the entire balance at closing, and he did lose nearly $20,000 that he could have taken with him in equity. I know this is a very sad tell, but it is an important cautionary one. Just remember, when you're deciding if solar is the best fit for you, that it will not increase the value like you hope it will. And if you decide to sell your home before it's completely paid off, there could be some consequences. I will add that the buyer did gladly accept the brand new, completely paid off solar. It isn't that there's no redeeming qualities of solar. I'm just addressing the impact that it will have on your financial gain when you decide to sell your house. If you have solar questions, you will want to watch my videos where I do a deeper dive into how solar is evaluated and the mistakes that you will want to avoid. We all have our reasons to consider moving. What's yours? Do you need to be closer to family? Is the work commute costing you precious time with your family? Did you start working from home and now you need to live somewhere else because you can live anywhere you want to? Are you concerned about the school districts for your children? Do you need something bigger or smaller? Regardless of your reason, we can come up with a plan of action to get your home staged and ready to be presented on the market so that the next family can find their perfect home and we can find your perfect new home if you're moving up or down or just making a move in general.